Good morning and welcome. We're starting this week on a fine note, but also tragedy struck us over the weekend. Now, we'll look at that, but the guest we have today has been out of the scenes for quite a while. Before the last election, she was quite vocal and about. We call her the Iron Lady of Kenyan politics. But it's about 2 years since she was in public and on TV in any significant way. I'm talking about the Honorable Martha Karua, former presidential candidate, who is our guest this morning. Karibu.
Thank you.
You have the whole 2 years to yourself. Somebody would say, where has Martha Karua been? Although we, of course, had you during the referendum joining with others. But really, we have not heard you and seen you in substance. So what have you been up to?
I declared that I was on sabbatical for 2 years. And if you remember that the general election was on 4th March 2013, my sabbatical is now coming to an end. So I've generally been resting. Every day has been a holiday. I would say I've been having me time.
Yes, you time.
Generally relaxing, and I can say I have earned the leave. I've worked without leave for a long, long period. Yeah. So I awarded myself accumulated.
It's not easy for a politician to take leave, even when they're in office.
I used to go on leave, and it would end up not being leave because it would be at the most 10 days.
Yeah.
You either go to the coast or somewhere else with the kids. But once you go with your phone, yeah, you're not on holiday.
Yeah.
You see, you're thinking and you're reacting to things. I've been able to sort of switch off.
Right.
And give myself as much time as possible.
Okay.
I didn't know I would enjoy resting, but I have.
You have
yes, said that your leave is over in March.
Yes, it's coming to a close.
So
yeah.
What next?
What next?
In fact, yes, what next?
One of the tasks I have, and we've been doing it in a small way even during my sabbatical, is to rebuild the party, NARC Kenya. And also to rebuild my political life. And also to be productive as a Kenyan.
Yeah. It's long, I mean, we haven't had you, and so I should get back to this. Since the last election, what, in a nutshell, are your reflections on that election and going forward? Do you have any regrets? Do you think Kenyans treated you right?
I'll say this. I did the best I could. I went to every nook and cranny of this country.
Yes.
And I know my message was heard, loud and clear. Kenyans made a choice. We got to respect it. And democracy has two sides of the coin, winning and losing. We lost. But my message was heard. And I don't think I could substitute that message for any other.
Yes.
So I did my best. I accept the results. And I said to myself, even the 4 consecutive elections I had won as MP, somebody was on the losing end all the time.
That's true.
So if I lose once, I ought to be able to take it. And I took it in my stride. And I said, Kenyans have given me time off. I had not requested for time off.
Yeah.
And initially, I didn't think that that was very fair. But I've enjoyed the time off. I'm enjoying it. I call it a gift.
So when do you think you lost?
You can't ask me that. I'm not in the mind of the voter.
They chose somebody else.
Always.
You say your message was taken.
My message was received, and it was heard. You see? They opted for a different route, and you got to respect that.
NARC Kenya, did NARC Kenya make any impact as a party, not yourself? The party itself?
No. Both the party and myself. In the last parliament, we had over 34 members. We now have 1 member of parliament and 18 MCAs. But when I look at the distribution of our MCAs, I see that our message was being heard in different corners of Kenya, because we have an MCA in Turkana, we have an MCA in Kakamega, we have one in Pokot, we have in Wajir, we have in Garissa, we have in Meru, we have in Kisii. I mean, you can see it's a mix.
Yeah. Right.
So all is not lost. We have the potential to be a party with national appeal. Whatever was in the minds of the voters in the last elections, we will find out after a poll that is underway informs us, and we will take the message in our stride. Yeah.
Now you're making a comeback,
Yeah.
if we may call it so.
Yeah.
I can see on the political field realignments, people merging JAP,
Yeah.
on the other side, CORD,
Yeah.
with whom you have had some sort of association on the constitution review,
Yeah.
on the proposed referendum.
Yeah.
What will you be looking out to do? Any particular affiliation you're looking at?
Let me say that the party is going to approach this with an open mind. But our first and foremost duty is to rebuild the party. We are in the process of identifying champions everywhere to rebuild and recruit, because we take it that we have almost no members and no officials everywhere because they deserted. So we are rebuilding. You cannot start talking of realignment and merging and all those things before putting your house in order. But NARC Kenya is a party outside government. We are therefore an opposition party. And therefore we have more in common with opposition. And in Kenya today, when people hear opposition, it's like people have forgotten that the Constitution allows a multi-party state. So a majority of people hearing opposition, it's like you are committing an offense. We are opposition because we are not a government
But people
party.
should find it strange that you'd be, even within that opposition fraternity, that
yes.
you'll be hanging together, if I
Yes.
may put it that way, with the
Yes.
people who you were virulently opposed to during the
Let
campaign.
me assure you that
You have broken ranks?
we now have a lot in common. As opposition parties, our foremost duty is to put the government on its toes.
Right.
So once you in the political divide are in the opposition, you have more in common with your colleagues in the opposition than with those in government in terms of a political agenda. Secondly, Kenyans appear to have forgotten the 90s. The 90s, when we battled KANU, Mama na Baba, the opposition always after elections coalesced together and would find common agenda to keep the government on its toes. But because of the confusion of the Kibaki years, where after the first referendum, the government of the day poached from the opposition, and government and opposition became indistinguishable. And then the second term, the grand coalition government, which means there was virtually no opposition. Kenyans have forgotten the legitimacy of an opposition and that the opposition has an agenda. And our constitution today gives the opposition constitutional mandate to keep the government on its toes. So we as a country must start appreciating the opposition and realizing that without opposition, we will return to the same dark days.
Very well
of
spoken.
dictatorship.
That's true. But how
Yes.
how much are you working together with that same opposition? Are you actually, working as a team? Because when people talk about the opposition, they
Yeah.
basically talk about the CORD affiliate parties. Hardly do they talk about the other parties which are outside government, therefore in the opposition, as you say,
We
but
are
there is
not
no
in
common
court,
agenda.
But we have come forward, especially on the referendum initiative, to stand with the opposition,
Okay.
who are mainly CORD. And we are still open on issues of mutual interest to join up with the opposition. And within the broad agenda of making the government accountable, we have a common agenda. And that does not mean that NARC Kenya has gone into the CORD coalition. Our task right now is to rebuild the party with an open mind. Later on, should we find friends and decide how much to work with them, that's up to the party membership. But for now, from time to time, on issues of mutual interest, yes.
You have
Yeah.
said that your party kind of crumbled after the election,
Yes, yes, yes. We
Now
must
you want-
accept
you-
we
you-
were devastated.
and
Yes.
that you are now rebuilding
Yes.
tell us the strategies we have to have this.
You know,
the
there's
members,
no
because
way we
there is-
can share strategies publicly. I will say this.
The reason why I'm asking this is this. I was a young man of 30 years wanting
Yes.
to do parliament in 2017,
Yeah.
why would I want to join your party? What motivation is there?
It depends on why you are joining politics. If you're joining it so that you yourself can benefit, then you will want to get to parliament, whatever, through the ticket of whatever party. But if you're joining parliament because you want to bring change and transformation to the country, you will look for a party whose ideals match yours.
But in
NARC
Kenya politics,
Kenya is still a party.
ideals are not there in
Well, then what you're saying is that you have lost hope in your own country. Because if we are a country of no ideals and everything goes, all we have to do is check where we are now. I keep telling the voters, this is your choice. Stop complaining. So long as you continue doing the way you do it, the results will forever be the same. Then it is better you accept, in quotes, and move on. Accept whatever role the government gives you and move on because it's your choice. But if you are complaining, ask yourself, what can you do differently than you did?
But
Just like we are asking ourselves in NARC Kenya, the message was right. Could we have delivered it differently? What else could we have done? Any human being who lives without assessing and seeing what better they can do is doomed. And I don't think we have accepted as a nation that we are doomed.
But political parties in Kenya have no principles, they have only a manifesto during
You can
campaigns.
say generally political parties don't have. NARC Kenya has, and it cost us.
Because of
It
sticking
cost
with
us,
it.
and we will stick with it, because if it is what we believe in, we have a duty to propagate it. It may take longer than we expected, but we know that we will emerge.
During the elections,
Yeah.
are there no people who jumped from NARC Kenya when they didn't get?
A lot of people, yes.
A lot of people jumped
Yes.
from
We were a
NARC Kenya.
training ground.
Exactly. That's
Yeah.
what I'm saying.
Yeah.
In Kajiado Central the other day,
Yeah.
a guy was number 2
Yeah.
in nomination for JAP,
Yeah.
Jubilee Party.
Yeah.
He became number 2. The following day he went to
But why don't you
ODM,
begin
and
where?
he was nominated.
But why don't you begin at the beginning, that he was ODM
In the first
and
place.
he went to nominations? You want to make it look like he was in JAP, which was a party that just started the other day. You should state clearly that he left his home, went to the neighbors, and
Lost and
realized the
came
neighbors was not as good and returned home. That's the way we should see it.
Okay, let's look at it.
That's what I'm saying. There's
We
no
should be
principle.
fair.
Yeah.
No,
But generally, people don't. A lot of people don't, but a lot of people have.
Okay.
A lot of Kenyans who don't speak, and there are many who would join politics but have not found where they can fit. And we are saying as a party, we have a duty to continue on our path so that Kenyans of like mind can come with us,
Okay.
and we can eventually make the point. And if you look at history of political parties all over the world, it does happen. It's just like in business. A business can crumble and tomorrow emerge. In a human life, the spirit is never to give up. Keep on trying until you get there. And I, as a person, and NARC Kenya as a party, we'll keep trying.
Let's clean up again part of that political realignment.
Yeah,
After the elections,
yeah.
were you not approached by government, the winning outfit, Jubilee, to join and be part of the coalition forming the government?
I don't know why that assumption should be there, that the government has to approach everyone. Unless if the government is bent on annihilating the opposition, which is contrary to the constitution, they have no business trying to take on the entire opposition. And I can say frankly that I was not personally approached, but there were members of the party who felt that we should now rush to government. We discussed it at a retreat in Naivasha, and we agreed no, it was not opportune, and decisions should never be made immediately after elections before you get over the loss.
Right.
You should take your time and then decide
On where you want to go.
where you want to go. You might be trying to take yourself where you are not wanted and where you will not be of any consequence.
Okay.
Yeah.
Now let's look at your, association with
Yeah.
CORD in respect of the. You said since you're in the opposition.
Yeah, we are.
But let's look at
opposition
particularly
party.
at one aspect, the
Yeah.
referendum.
Yeah.
It seems to have lost momentum at some point because of many events which have
I'm
happened.
not a
Is it on course?
spokesperson of the Okoa Kenya movement, and I will not attempt to be. But what I know is that it's still on, and the bill is being drafted. You see?
You believe
But I
that we
also
need a
know-
referendum?
I also know that the referendum push has already yielded results. You can remember that it came on because the government refused to dialogue. The government also had refused to listen to the governor's cry for more money. Even as we speak, there are proposals of adding the money, although the governors are saying it is not enough. So if you're asking me, even before the ballot, the referendum has already yielded. Because even if it's not a sit-down dialogue between government and opposition, there has been movement. The government realized they can't just stonewall where people are saying, we want this and that. Not all the issues have been tackled, and it's up to the opposition to now focus attention on the main issues. And one of the main issues is the reorganization of the Electoral Commission. The issue of security, the issue of many issues, may I say, because there is security, there is devolution, which is still at stake, there is the IBC, and those are part of the major issues.
Right.
Let's talk about money.
Yeah.
Maybe you lost because other people had more money than your party.
I am not aware that election, you buy the vote. I have never bought the vote, even the 4 elections I won. But I want to admit also that the 2013 general election was a money election. Kenyans appeared to be just by money
And
influence peddling.
And next year also,
Yeah.
and next election also. So
Let me
in
tell
view
you
of
that so long as I am there, I will not buy a vote. I've never bought a vote, even the 4 I won, and I will not buy votes. But money is important for logistics, for other things. But I would never join the use of money to buy the vote. That is corruption.
Let's look
Plainly
at
speaking.
it's been 2 years
Yeah.
on your, self-imposed sabbatical.
Yeah.
But obviously you have been watching from the side
Yes.
how the government that took office is doing.
Yeah.
What is your honest opinion on the different levels or policies or actions that the government has undertaken over this period?
I said I would give them a D. I've said before.
D?
Yeah. Yeah.
D.
Yeah.
The reason? What are
Surely on security, if we went,
Yeah, okay.
went issue by issue,
Yep.
you
Yeah.
can get below D and go to E minus or F.
That's very mean.
On security, they've done very poorly, and I am not convinced that the government has put any serious effort on matters security, because we seem to react to crisis. We are reactive, not proactive. And even when we've been hit and hit hard, we still are reactive, not proactive.
So security is one of the areas you think it hasn't
On
performed very
governance.
well. Governance generally.
It's also as poor as security. Devolution is where I try to be a little more generous, because although, in my view, the government has not helped the counties, which are new, to grow, because they've been having this strained relationship with the counties. That is not an atmosphere in which to grow new institutions. But because the devolved functions have largely been released to the counties and monies are released, one wants to appreciate that one they maybe are doing up to about 35 to 40%.
Being a lawyer, what do you think about the judiciary and judicial reforms that took place? Are you happy?
No, the judicial reforms seems also to be spinning round and round and not quite going the way we expected. But you realize it's not an easy job, because it depends on the institution, on the many individuals who man that particular institution, more or less like government. But there's a way the administration of the judiciary should keep the reforms on track. They have not quite managed. A lot needs to be done. But it's a reflection of what is happening in the entire government. Look, it's like it's a day for the corruption cartels to wake up. Corruption has become the order of the day. Even when we get a shock like we got with the school land in Langata, we are now hearing more and more schools complaining, and no serious action, no concrete action. Not even when there was the other Karen land.
You were at the National Accord discussions, and
Yeah.
land was key to resolving Kenya's problems.
Yes.
Are you satisfied with the way it's being handled post the 2010
I
constitution?
am not satisfied at all. And even before the 10th Parliament was dissolved, in January 2013, the only reason I went to Parliament, because I believed Parliament should never have been extended beyond the 30th December 2012. I went to Parliament a couple of times, and it was only to push for the National Land Commission to be sworn in, to be gazetted and sworn in. The Land Commission has been fought and has not been allowed to stand on its feet. We have not even begun planning how to redress historical injustices. We have not tackled the issue of land grabbing. Instead, we seem to be nurturing land grabbing. The National Land Commission appears to completely have been derailed. The Ministry of Lands has swallowed its baby, the National Land Commission. So things are not as rosy as they appear to be, and we should speak out openly and say that we have subverted the Constitution as far as reorganization of the land sector was envisaged by the Constitution. And something we'll have to give. And it is so unfortunate that Parliament is not focused on that, not at all. And I think because there are too many issues, and we appreciate that there are teething problems because this is a new dispensation, even us in the opposition must keep the focus. And because there are too many issues, we ought to focus on a couple of issues every other time so that there can be clarity and we can be able to tell Kenyans what is really happening and to push the government to act.
Listening to you this morning,
Yeah.
having done the Constitution and passed it and done everything, we thought that was the panacea. But listening to you this morning, one gets very disillusioned.
Yeah, but the Constitution is not at fault. It's human beings at fault. It is us, once again, impunity rising and us acting as though the Constitution did not exist. The happenings in the land sector are as though the Constitution does not exist.
One of the organs which came out of that, again, National Accord, was the Truth, Justice and Reconciliation Commission.
Yeah.
The report, again, not implemented largely, went to Parliament for amendments or...
It has not even been made public. One stage is that every report that has been compiled using public funds has to be made public so that the public is able to discuss in an informed manner. What people know is what they have been able to gather from other sources. We need the Truth, Justice and Reconciliation Commission report to be made public. The onus is on the President and his government. It needs to be implemented.
I think there was,
So that we
there was
can
a
have
hitch in Parliament.
Lasting peace in this country. Remember, why did we have a Truth, Justice and Reconciliation Commission? Is that we felt that there was pent-up anger in the country over many issues, and we needed to bring these issues to the fore and tackle them. Some of them we do not need to do much. We just need to acknowledge that these terrible things happened and to reaffirm through the presidency to the nation that this will never happen again. Others we need to redress, like the issues of land and several other issues. The issues of imbalance in hiring, you know, because we need to ensure that
The face of Kenya.
the face of Kenya is reflected.
It is
in
indeed
every-
being reflected.
We still hear complaints, and we still know it is not reflected because Public Service Commission admits that the situation is not good. The National Cohesion Commission acknowledges So we have acknowledged through government agencies and through the complaints of the people. These are the things we need to keep a tab on. And the current appointments also need to reflect. People are complaining even about current appointments. And we are not saying that we forget merit completely. But things must be done in a way that shows people we have moved from yesterday. We are on a new dawn.
Indeed, that brings me to your assessment of the implementation of the Constitution. I mean, the CIC was put in place, legislation to be passed to give teeth to or life to the Constitution itself. Key issue here was the chapter on integrity and how it was to move this country forward. You were part of that whole crusade. What is your view of how things stand right now? Is there hope?
I think, yes, I always say you can never lose hope in your country because your country is not like a wardrobe which you can have a makeover. You cannot change your country. You can, but it is not a solution. You can go into exile. It's not a solution. So for me, this is my home. I cannot lose hope on it. There are things we are doing right or we are on the right path. There are many things we are doing wrong, but we still have this great opportunity with the mechanism of the Constitution to get things on track. And it is up to you and me as Kenyans. We have been given a voice through the Constitution. We have been given a voice through our representatives. If our representatives disappoint us, you and me have a voice. My greatest disappointment is the middle class in this country, where you and me belong. We must do more than we are doing. Wherever countries have had a transformation, it is the consciousness of the middle class to do the right thing and to push for those reforms. We are failing Kenyans, and I'm of the view that the CIC worked up to somewhere December 2012. After that, the CIC has largely been asleep. You hear them now and then. And even then, not with the same focus and intensity they had at the beginning. Their time is coming to an end. It's coming to an end at a time I feel they have not done the best they could have done. Initially, they really did. And we have to admit that. But in between, they became lukewarm. Therefore, they've lost time they could have helped shape things. But all is not lost. We too have a duty. Let us do what we can.
In terms,
there is a requirement about gender. And there is a deadline set by the Supreme Court. What's the way forward? Because I don't see it happening.
The responsibility is on the government of the day, and by government I mean the three arms of government. Because the executive does not pass the laws in Parliament, it can propose. So we should be seeing the executive making proposals because they have that responsibility. We should be seeing Parliament busy working. We should be seeing everybody together. The judiciary has already done its part. I don't think they did it rightly, but we are bound by their ruling. And I do remember the Chief Justice dissenting because those rights ought not to have been stayed or postponed. But now that that became the official ruling of the court, the deadline is this year, 2015, that provisions on how to achieve gender...
one-third.
The gender rule must be put in place. But may I say also political parties have a role. Therefore, all those of us who are leading political parties, and especially those who are leading the major parties, have a role to ensure that members of their party pass the legislation in Parliament. It is not just the three arms of government, it's also political parties as entities, and it's also as Kenyans. That together, if we do not advocate for inclusivity, ensuring that Parliament reflects the face of Kenya is both male and female. When you have a Parliament that does not reflect the face of Kenya, then it is not truly democratic.
You awarded the government, that's the executive, a D. What is your rating of the performance of the legislature, our Parliament?
Since I was a member of Parliament in the last Parliament, I want not to comment, but I would say generally poorly. But let me not go beyond that, not to appear to be supervising the National Assembly, which I left just a while ago, but I would say that I was very, very disappointed in the manner in which the security laws were amended, the conduct of members of parliament on both sides of the divide. To redeem itself, parliament must sanction its members who misbehaved. You cannot have attempted stripping in the National Assembly when the same National Assembly is passing laws to stop public stripping in the streets. They themselves are violating the same laws. You cannot have that kind of behavior in an institution that people look up to. Something is terribly wrong, and I expect the leadership of the National Assembly, through the Powers and Privileges Act, to act on legislators on both sides of the divide, because the cameras could show misbehavior from both sides of the divide. They had no business even going up to the gallery to harass the senators. The Speaker had already called the orderlies to go and remove them.
Right.
You let the orderlies do their job. You don't degenerate into a physical fight.
Want to see the way the ICC cases have gone?
I think that's up to the... I do remember the President saying during the debates that it was a personal challenge.
Yeah.
I would rather not comment on personal challenges. There are 40 million Kenyans with personal challenges, and I will not be able to comment on each person's personal challenge.
But has it been personal, the way the government has treated?
Obviously not. Kenyans have been made to carry the burden, but I would rather not dwell on personal challenges.
Do you believe in the concept of the African court?
No, I don't.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right.
But it would be a great thing if African leaders, if we could be able to do that. But if we are not making our judicial systems work in our own countries, if we are not supporting our judiciaries to grow, how are we going to be placed to support the African court? The African court, like the European court, ought to be a reality. But Africa has a big task to clean its own house in the individual states to begin with, in order to have a robust African Union with all the institutions that it deserves. Yeah.
Okay. Well, we have to come to the end of this show. I mean, we spent a bit because we couldn't make it in time, so we ate a bit of our time. But I'm sure we'll get more time in the future now that you're back to explore. But just a bit of feedback from people who are watching this. You know, some are happy to see you back. Yeah. You know, somebody says, "Morning, I salute you, Martha Karua, for being open to us by saying that you never did any corruption during your time in office." So they believe what you're saying. Somebody says, "I've just ditched URP for NARC Kenya, Norman Getich." You still inspire them, you know, and so forth. Positive feedback from you. But others say, "Why do you seem don't have a liking for our president? Is there anything personal?"
I think people don't understand that it is indeed a human trait to have difference of opinion.
Yes.
And you do not have to agree with people so as to be said to like them. So I think we need to grow as a nation to understand that we have a right to differ. It's how we differ that should matter.
That there's nothing personal between you and the president.
What would there be?
Yes.
That's what the person is asking.
No, that person is asking out of ignorance.
Okay.
Yes.
Somebody says, although you stood for president, come back and rescue us in Kirinyaga, that you should go and run for governor.
I have already run for the seats I wanted in the county.
Yes.
And I am not going to look for a seat in the county.
At all?
Not just Kirinyaga, any county.
All right. So concluding our show,
Yeah.
you're back, obviously heading back into politics actively, more visibly.
Yeah.
What should we expect from you? What are you aiming for? Are you going to run for president again?
Yes,
the journey starts
I
here?
said I'm not done.
Yes.
I said I'm not done. So all things are open. All cards are on the table.
And supposing the government said, look, and somebody suggests here that the only thing missing in government is Martha Karua because of your hard stance on corruption.
Not in this government.
You're not willing to take an invitation?
If you remember, if Kenyans remember, I had to leave the government of Mwai Kibaki because we differed on principle. It would be foolhardy to want to go where you know you'll differ on principle. And that is why our constitution, realizing that people will have different stands, has opened to multi-party politics. There is life in the opposition, and more than 95% of Kenyans are not working in government. Government is a very small percentage. I'm with the majority, and I'm enjoying it. And I suppose it should show.
Would it not be better if the provisions were given that when you lose a presidential candidate, you can run for MP and so that now you're not outside, you're inside parliament?
We had thought about it, and personally speaking, after 20 years in parliament, I do not think I would want to go back to the institution. Yeah, I said I had reached my optimal in that particular institution. But there may be a case for having those who want back to Senate or Parliament or wherever. But personally, I do not feel that urge. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Do you believe the 2013 elections were free and fair? That is your verdict.
Let me say this, that a lot of things went wrong, but I don't know whom to blame. It's not just the Electoral Commission. It's also with political parties. Towards the end, almost all the parties, I'm saying almost all because NARC Kenya stuck to the law. Almost all the parties never followed the law. People were party hopping beyond the time legislated. And I remember candidates coming up to me in NARC Kenya and telling me that they have a deal either with the registrar or with the IBC that if we give them a ticket, their papers will be taken even if it's past time. Although we had need for candidates, we refused to take those candidates. They were taken by other parties. And when I say other parties, it's parties both in government and in opposition. So we must blame ourselves as a people. Until political parties behave, the electoral field in Kenya will never be level. Even when we have a new electoral commission, it's still contaminated by political parties because the electoral commission misbehaves at the behest of political parties.
But you agreed with its finding, final results, declaration.
We accepted it, and it went to court. I supported court action because it's also something the Constitution gives us. After the court verdict, whether you believe in it or not, the matter comes to a closure. So this is now time to sit and dialogue, and I'm really wishing well the new CEO of the IBC and telling him that he has to show us he is different. We need a round table discussion, not the chairman sitting with the president and saying that they are now going to ensure 2017 will be better. That is a job for all the stakeholders, so that we accuse each other across the table. As we tell the IBC of where they went wrong, they should be able to tell us as parties, and we should be able to tell each other where we went wrong. I believe IBC is largely to blame, but we too, as political parties and as Kenyans, are to blame.
What about the registrar of political parties?
That office is totally discredited. Remember, the Constitution said it should have been renewed in 2012. What is the registrar's office doing? What is the executive doing not renewing that office? If the process of renewal brings back Lucy Dongo, and I doubt, so be it. But right now, she is sitting there in an unconstitutional manner because that office had a time limit of when to be renewed. Okay. And that office is so important. I said the Electoral Commission will never perform until the parties perform. The whip of the parties is the registrar's office, a very critical office. So these are the issues as the opposition we must start to raise. In time, this is 2015. These are not issues to raise in 2017. They are issues for today.
All right. Thank you so much, Martha Karua. Former 2013 presidential candidate Martha Karua was our guest this morning. She's back relaunching her active political face after 2 years of self-imposed sabbatical, she says. And we're looking at how her rating of how the government is doing and across the board, the state of our politics. Thank you for watching Power Breakfast.